The blizzard had passed 3 nights ago, but the cold hadn't. Wind still cut through the pines like a knife, looking for something warm to kill. Caleb Thornton stood on his porch in the gray light before dawn, rifle held low across his body, watching 6 riders crest the hill a quarter-mile out. Their horses' breath made ghosts in the frozen air. Behind him, through the cabin window, a lantern burned. The boy was awake. Caleb could hear the small shuffle of boots on the wooden floor, the creak of the loft ladder. On the table inside sat an iron box, locked tight, no bigger than a bread loaf. The boy had clutched it through the whole blizzard 3 nights ago, when Caleb found him collapsed in the snow 200 yards from the fence line. Luther Vance, Randall Garrett's foreman, stepped his horse forward. The wind carried his voice sharp and clear. "Mr. Garrett wants his boy back. Today." The memory came sharp. 3 nights back, wind howling like wolves, temperature 20 below. Caleb had been checking the fence line before full dark. Stupid in that weather, but the cattle needed water, and the trough pump had frozen. He'd heard it then. A sound that didn't belong. Not wind, not animal. Crying. He'd lifted the lantern higher. Through the horizontal snow he'd seen the shape. Small, moving wrong, falling. Caleb had run. His boots broke through the snow crust with every step, each one a small betrayal of sound that got swallowed by the storm. The shape fell again, didn't get up this time. When he reached it, his hands found a boy, 9, maybe 10, lips blue, ice in his eyelashes. The boy's arms were wrapped around something. An iron box, edges sharp enough to cut through his thin coat. His fingers had frozen to the metal. "Let go," Caleb had said. "Let go, son. I got you." The boy's eyes had opened, just for a second. "Don't let him take the box." Then nothing. Caleb had carried them both, boy and box together, back through 200 yards of hell. The wind had tried to take his hat. His beard had turned to ice. By the time he kicked the cabin door open, he couldn't feel his hands. He'd set the boy by the fireplace. Added 3 logs, stirred the coals until they roared. The smell of wet wool and wood smoke filled the one-room cabin. The boy didn't move. Caleb peeled the frozen coat off carefully. Underneath, the shirt was torn. Too thin for winter, too thin for anything. The iron box had finally come free when Caleb poured warm water over the boy's hands. Not hot, warm. He'd learned that from his years on the railroad. Too much heat too fast would damage the tissue. He'd wrapped the boy in Sarah's quilt, the blue one she'd sewn the year before she died, and set a pot of coffee on the stove. Not for the boy, for himself. His hands were shaking. The boy had woken an hour later. Caleb had been sitting in the chair across from him, rifle across his knees, watching. The boy's eyes had opened slow. They'd found Caleb's face, then the iron box sitting on the table between them. "Where am I?" "My ranch, 8 miles from Red Creek Valley." Caleb's voice came out rough. He cleared his throat. "You were near frozen. What's your name?" "Danny." "Danny what?" The boy had hesitated. Then, "Garrett." Caleb had gone still. Everyone in the territory knew that name. Randall Garrett owned the railroad spur contracts, owned half the businesses in town, owned the loyalty of every man who needed work. "Your father's Randall Garrett?" The boy had pulled the quilt tighter. His eyes went to the box again. "Yes, sir." "What are you doing out here in a blizzard?" "Running." The word hung in the air between them. Caleb had poured 2 cups of coffee. He'd added sugar to one, more than he could afford, but the boy needed it, and handed it over. The boy's hands had shook when he took it. The smell of the coffee mixed with pine smoke and damp wool. Outside, the wind had rattled the shutters. "Running from what?" Danny had taken a sip. His eyes had stayed down. "From him." "Your father?" "Yes, sir." Caleb had waited. The fire popped. A log settled. The boy's fingers had traced the rim of the coffee cup around and around. Finally, "He locked me in the cellar for 2 days when I asked about my mama." Caleb's jaw had tightened. "Where's your mama now?" "Dead, 3 years back. He said she fell down the stairs." Danny's voice had gotten smaller. "But I heard them fighting the night before. I heard her say she was leaving, taking me with her." The wind had gusted hard enough to shake the whole cabin. Caleb had stood and checked the door latch, checked the rifle, sat back down. "That box, what's in it?" Danny's hands had moved to protect it. "Mama's things. Papers. She told me if anything happened to her, I should keep it safe. She said it was proof." "Proof of what?" "I don't know. It's locked. She said her sister had the key, but her sister died last year." Danny had looked up then. His eyes were older than 9. "Don't let him take it. Please, it's all I got left of her." Caleb had looked at the boy, at the too thin frame, at the bruise on his wrist, fading yellow-green, at the way he held that box like it was the only solid thing in the world. I won't. That had been 3 nights ago. Now Luther Vance sat his horse in the gray dawn, 5 riders behind him, and the reckoning Caleb had known was coming had arrived. Caleb didn't move from the porch. The rifle stayed across his body, barrel pointed at the ground. Luther's horse shifted weight, blowing frost. The other 5 riders fanned out slow. Professional, they'd done this before. Boy ran away from his father, Luther said. His voice carried no anger, just fact. Mr. Garrett's been looking for him 3 days. Whole territory's been looking. Boy's safe, Caleb said. That's good, real good. Luther nodded. Mr. Garrett will be relieved. We'll take him home now. Boy says he doesn't want to go home. Luther's jaw worked. Behind him, one of the riders, young, maybe 20, let his hand drift toward his gun belt. Luther raised one finger. The hand stopped. What a boy wants and what's right ain't always the same thing, Luther said. His father's worried sick. Worried enough to check the cellar? Luther's eyes narrowed. A long silence. The wind pushed between them. Caleb could smell the horses, sweat and leather and cold. Don't know what the boy told you, Luther said carefully. But Mr. Garrett's his legal guardian. That's the law. Law can wait till the snow melts. Law don't wait for weather. Luther gathered his reins. We're taking him. You can hand him over peaceful, or we can come back with the sheriff. Your choice. Caleb's thumb moved. Not much. Just enough to rest on the rifle's hammer. Every man in the yard saw it. I'm asking you to leave, Caleb said quietly. Luther stared at him. 30 seconds passed. A full minute. Then he turned his horse. We'll be back. They rode out slow. Caleb watched until they dropped below the hill. The sound of hoofbeats faded. The wind picked up the space they left. He stood there another 5 minutes, making sure. Then he went inside. Danny was sitting at the table, both hands on the iron box. His face had gone white. He's coming back, Danny whispered. I know. You don't know him. He always gets what he wants. Caleb hung the rifle above the door, poured coffee into both cups. The pot was still hot from earlier. He sat down across from Danny and pushed one cup toward him. Drink. Danny's hands shook when he lifted the cup. We got time, Caleb said. They'll go to town first. Get the sheriff. That's a 3-hour ride, round trip. Gives us time to think. There's nothing to think about, Danny's voice cracked. He's got papers. He's got the law. He's got everything. Caleb drank his coffee. It was bitter. He'd let it boil too long. Outside, the sky was getting lighter, gray turning to pale yellow where the sun would rise. The smell of pine smoke hung thick. You said your mama left papers in that box. Yes, sir. What kind of papers? I don't know. Legal things, I think. She said if anyone ever tried to take me, the papers would prove... He stopped. Prove something. Caleb looked at the box. The lock was good, old-fashioned, the kind that took a specific key. Your mama's sister. She lived around here? No, sir. Denver. She died of influenza last winter. And the key? I don't know where it is. Mama never told me. 3 days ago, Caleb had been alone. Quiet. Broke, but his own man. Now he had a scared boy, a locked box, and Randall Garrett's fury riding toward him. I need to go into town, he said. Danny's eyes went wide. He'll be there. I know, but if papers were filed, if your father's got legal guardianship registered, I need to know what we're facing. Caleb stood, pulled on his coat. You'll stay here. Bolt the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. What if they come back? They won't. Not till they've got the sheriff. Caleb checked the rifle, checked his revolver. There's food in the cupboard. Fire's good for 4 hours. I'll be back before then. He started for the door. Danny's voice stopped him. Why are you doing this? Caleb turned. The boy was small in Sarah's quilt. The iron box sat between his hands like an anchor. For a moment, Caleb saw another child, one that never drew breath, one Sarah had labored 36 hours to deliver before the fever took them both. Because it's right, he said. The ride into Red Creek Valley took an hour. The road was frozen mud, ridged like a washboard. His horse picked through it careful. The sun came up weak and pale, no warmth in it. The temperature stayed below 20. Town was small, one main street, maybe 200 people if you counted the outlying ranches. The trading post sat at the north end, smoke rising from its chimney. Caleb tied his horse and went inside. The bell above the door rang. 3 men stood at the counter. They turned, saw him. The conversation died. Caleb walked to the back, picked up a sack of flour, 25 pounds. He needed coffee too, and salt pork, but he only had enough coin for one. He set the flour on the counter. The merchant, a thick man named Vernon Price, looked at him, looked at the flour, didn't move. "That'll be $12, Vernon said. Caleb reached for his pocket, stopped. It was $8 last week. Price went up. $4 in 7 days? Vernon's jaw set. Supply and demand. You want it or not? The 3 men watched. One of them smiled. Caleb felt the weights of their eyes. The smell of tobacco spit and wood smoke hung in the warm air. His fingers found the coins in his pocket. He had $14, enough for the flour, nothing left for the rest of winter. "I'll take it on credit," he said quietly. "No credit. I've bought here 9 years. Never missed a payment." Vernon leaned forward. His voice carried. "I don't extend credit to men who harbor stolen property." The room went silent. Caleb's hand tightened on the coins. "Boy's not stolen. Boy's Randall Garrett's son. Garrett says you took him. That makes him stolen, far as I see it." Vernon crossed his arms. "Now you gonna pay cash or get out?" Caleb set the coins on the counter. $12. Vernon counted them slow, pushed the flour forward. Caleb picked it up. At the door, he stopped, turned. "If you see the sheriff, tell him I'll be at my ranch. He's welcome to come talk." Vernon spat tobacco juice into a can. "Oh, he'll come. You can count on that." Outside, Caleb tied the flour to his saddle. His hands were steady, but something burned in his chest. Behind him, through the trading post window, he saw the 3 men laughing. He mounted up, turned toward home. The ride back felt longer than the ride in. The sun was halfway up when Caleb reached the cabin. Danny opened the door before he could knock. The boy's face was tight with worry. "You were gone a long time." "Had business." Caleb carried the flour inside, set it on the shelf. Danny was watching him, reading him. "What happened?" "Nothing that matters." Caleb poured water into the basin, washed his hands. The cold water stung. Outside, the wind had picked up again. It whistled through the chinks in the cabin walls. "You eat?" "No, sir." "Why not?" "Didn't feel right. Eating your food when—" Danny stopped. Caleb dried his hands on a rag. "When what?" "When you're in trouble because of me." Caleb cut 2 thick slices from the bread he'd made 3 days ago, put them on tin plates, added cold salt pork from breakfast, set 1 plate in front of Danny. "Eat." They ate in silence. The bread was stale, but it filled the hollow. Outside, a crow called, then another. Caleb stood and looked through the window. Nothing, just trees and snow and the fence line stretching toward the creek. "Someone's coming," Danny said quietly. Caleb's hand moved toward the rifle. Then he saw it. A single horse. A woman riding side saddle, dark coat, moving careful on the frozen road. He relaxed slightly, set the rifle back. "Stay inside." He went out to the porch. The woman was older than him, maybe 52, 53, gray showing in her hair under a wool bonnet. Her face was weathered but sharp. She rode right up to the porch and dismounted smooth. "Mrs. Malone," Caleb said. "Mr. Thornton." Esther Malone tied her horse to the rail. "Might I come inside? This wind cuts right through." Caleb hesitated, then stepped aside. Esther came in and stopped when she saw Danny. Her eyes took him in, the thin frame, the too large shirt Caleb had loaned him, the way his hands went immediately to the iron box on the table. She looked at Caleb. "So it's true." "Depends what you heard." "That you're harboring Randall Garrett's boy. That Garrett's fit to burn down half the territory looking for him." She unbuttoned her coat. The cabin was warm from the fire. "That the sheriff got served papers this morning. Custody challenge. 90 days. Caleb went still. 90 days to what? "To prove you're a fit guardian, or give the boy back." Esther pulled a folded paper from inside her coat, set it on the table. "Sheriff asked me to write out. Give you this, unofficial-like. He'll be out tomorrow to serve it proper." Caleb picked up the paper, unfolded it. The ink was fresh, legal language. Petitioner Randall Garrett, respondent Caleb Thornton, temporary custody disputed, hearing set May 1st. "Why'd the sheriff send you?" "Because he's a decent man caught in a bad spot. Because Garrett's got half the town council in his pocket." Esther looked at Danny again. "And because I've been town clerk 23 years, I know what papers should look like. And something about these don't sit right." Caleb set the papers down. "What do you mean?" "The signature. Says it's from Judge Carver out of Cheyenne. But I happen to know Judge Carver was in Denver visiting his daughter the whole second week of January. These are dated January 15th. She touched the paper. That's either a clerical error or someone signed his name who shouldn't have. Hope stirred in Caleb's chest, small, fragile. You sure about the dates? I keep the territorial registry. Part of my job is tracking judicial movements for court scheduling. Carver filed notice he'd be unavailable January 10th through 20th. Esther sat down at the table, looked at Danny directly. What's your name, son? Daniel Garrett, ma'am. You run away from your father? Danny's eyes dropped. Yes, ma'am. Why? The boy's hands tightened on the iron box. Caleb saw it. The shame, the fear, the weight of having to explain what shouldn't need explaining. You don't have to, Caleb started. He locked me in the cellar, Danny said quietly. 2 days, no food, just water, because I asked about my mama, about how she really died. Esther's face didn't change, but something in her eyes went hard. How old are you, Daniel? 9, ma'am. And your mama? Dead 3 years. He says she fell down the stairs. Esther nodded slowly. She looked at the iron box. What's in there? Mama's papers. She told me to keep them safe. Said they were proof. Proof of what? I don't know. It's locked. Esther reached out, touched the box gently. The metal was cold. Old iron, good craftsmanship. The lock was solid. Your mama was smart, leaving you something locked, something he couldn't take without raising questions. She stood, buttoned her coat back up, looked at Caleb. I can't promise anything, but I can look into those custody papers, see if there's a filing error that might buy you time. Her voice dropped. You should know, though, Garrett's already spreading word, saying you kidnapped his boy, saying you're unstable. A widower alone too long. He's painting a picture. I know. Do you? Because this town runs on Garrett's money, his railroad contracts, his business. People are going to side with him because they need to eat. She moved toward the door, stopped. But not everyone. There's still some of us remember what right looks like. Caleb followed her outside. The wind had picked up. The sky was getting darker, more snow coming. Why are you helping me, Sauraisi? He asked. Esther untied her horse, mounted smooth despite her age. Because I'm a widow too, Mr. Thornton. I know what it costs to hold on when everyone expects you to let go. She gathered the reins. And because 20 years ago, I lost a daughter to diphtheria, couldn't afford the medicine, couldn't afford the doctor, the people who could have helped, they looked the other way, said it wasn't their business. She turned her horse. I won't look away from a child in need. Not again. She rode off into the gray afternoon. Caleb watched her until she disappeared over the hill. When he went back inside, Danny was still sitting at the table, still holding the box. Is she going to help us? Maybe. Caleb added a log to the fire. The bark caught quick. Orange light filled the cabin. But we can't count on maybe. We need to figure out what's in that box. Danny looked down. I don't know how. The key's lost. Caleb sat down, studied the lock. It was old. Good craftsmanship. The kind that would take a skilled hand to open without breaking. He thought about it, then stood. I know someone who might. Who? Moses Whitfield, town blacksmith. If anyone can open that lock without damaging what's inside, it's Mo. Danny's face went pale. That means going back to town. Yes. He'll see me, my father, his men. Caleb looked at the boy, 9 years old, already carrying more weight than most men twice his age. I won't make you go, but if there's proof in that box, proof your mama died to protect, we're going to need it. Soon. Danny stared at the iron box. His hands trembled slightly, then so quiet Caleb almost missed it. Okay. Outside, the first snowflakes began to fall. They waited 2 days. The snow came hard the first night, then eased to flurries. Caleb used the time to prepare. He cleaned both rifles, counted his ammunition, checked the fence line twice daily, watching for riders. None came, but he knew they would. On the morning of the third day, the sky cleared, cold and blue and hard. Caleb saddled his horse and helped Danny up behind him. The boy wrapped his arms around Caleb's waist, the iron box tucked inside his coat. Stay close to me in town, Caleb said. Don't talk to anyone unless I say. Yes, sir. The ride took longer with both of them on one horse. The road was ice underneath fresh snow, treacherous. They moved slow. The sun climbed, but gave no warmth. Caleb could see his breath, could feel Danny shivering against his back. When they reached town, it was near noon. Main Street was busy. Wagons at the trading post, horses tied outside the saloon, men loading lumber at the rail yard. Caleb kept his eyes forward, heading straight for the blacksmith shop at the south end. They almost made it. "Thornton!" The voice cut across the street. Caleb's hand tightened on the reins. He turned. Randall Garrett stood outside the trading post. He was tall, well-dressed, dark coat, clean hat, boots that cost more than Caleb made in 6 months. 3 men flanked him. Luther Vance was one. The others Caleb didn't recognize. Hired men, by the look of them. Randall walked into the street. His eyes were on Danny. "Daniel, come here, son." Danny's arms tightened around Caleb's waist. "Boy's with me," Caleb said evenly. "Boy's my son. That makes him with me." Randall's voice was controlled, reasonable, the kind of reasonable that came from always getting what you wanted. "I appreciate you keeping him safe during the storm. I truly do. But he needs to come home now." People were stopping, gathering. A woman with a basket. 2 men from the saloon. The blacksmith, Mo, had come to his shop door, wiping his hands on his apron. Smoke rose from his forge behind him. "Danny says he doesn't want to go home," Caleb said. "Daniel is 9 years old. 9-year-olds don't always know what's best for them." Randall took another step forward. His voice carried. Everyone could hear. "He got scared, ran away during a tantrum. Children do that, but I'm his father, his legal guardian. The law is clear on this. Law also says a child has a right to be safe." Randall's jaw tightened, just slightly. "Are you implying something, Mr. Thornton?" "I'm saying what the boy told me, that you locked him in a cellar for 2 days." Murmurs rippled through the growing crowd. Randall's face didn't change. He spread his hands, reasonable, sad, understanding. "Daniel has an active imagination, always has. His mother, God rest her, she encouraged it. Stories, flights of fancy." He looked at his son. "I disciplined him, sent him to his room for talking back. He's confused that with something darker, but I would never, could never, harm my own child." "He's lying," Danny whispered against Caleb's back. So quiet only Caleb heard. "I filed legal papers," Randall continued. "Custody challenge, 90 days to resolve this properly. Through the courts, like civilized men." He held out his hand. "Daniel, please, come home." Danny didn't move. Randall's hand lowered. Something flickered across his face. Anger, just for a second. Then it was gone. "Mr. Thornton, you're making this harder than it needs to be. I'm willing to overlook your interference. Chalk it up to misplaced compassion. But if you continue to keep my son from me, I'll have no choice but to take further action." "What kind of action?" Caleb asked. Randall smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "The legal kind. I employ 40 men in this territory. I contract with the railroad. I hold mortgages on half the businesses in Red Creek Valley, including—" He gestured to the trading post behind him. "Vernon Price's establishment, among others." The threat hung in the cold air, clear as the frost on everyone's breath. "Think carefully," Randall said, "about what you can afford to lose." Caleb looked at the faces around him. Vernon Price stood in his doorway, arms crossed. The 2 men from the saloon wouldn't meet his eyes. The woman with the basket had backed away. Only Mo still stood in his doorway, watching, silent, his weathered face unreadable. "I'll think on it," Caleb said finally. He turned his horse toward the blacksmith shop. Randall's voice followed him. "You have until the hearing, Mr. Thornton, May 1st. After that, the law decides, not you." Caleb dismounted at Mo's shop, helped Danny down. The boy's legs were shaking. Mo stepped back, letting them inside. The forge burned hot and bright. The smell of coal smoke and hot iron filled the space. Tools hung on the walls in precise order. Horseshoes stacked in the corner. Mo closed the door, shot the bolt, turned to look at them. He was 65, black, hands scarred from 40 years of working metal. His shop was the only building in Red Creek Valley he owned free and clear. No mortgage, no debt. No one could touch him, not even Randall Garrett. "Heard you were in town," Mo said. His voice was deep, calm. "Figured you'd end up here eventually." "Need your help," Caleb said. "I gathered." Mo looked at Danny. "You're Elizabeth's boy." Danny's eyes widened. "You knew my mama?" "Knew of her. Her family was friends with folks I knew." Mo gestured to a bench near the forge. "Sit, both of you." They sat. The heat from the forge was intense after the cold outside. Caleb felt his face start to thaw. Danny pulled the iron box from inside his coat, set it on the workbench. "Need this opened," Caleb said, "without breaking what's inside." Mo picked up the box, examined the lock, turned it over in his hands. The firelight caught the old iron, made it glow. "Good craftsmanship. Old. Lock's solid. Where's the key?" "Lost," Danny said. "My mama's sister had it. She died last year." Mo nodded slowly, set the box down. "I can open it. Take me maybe an hour. Careful work." He looked at Caleb. "But first, you need to know something about Randall Garrett." What about him?" "He came here yesterday, after you left town last time. Told me if I helped you in any way, he'd make sure none of the railroad crews brought their horses here. That's 40% of my business." Caleb stood. "Then we'll go? I won't—" "Sit down," Mo said, not loud, but firm. Caleb sat. Mo moved to the forge, used tongs to pull a horseshoe from the coals. The metal glowed orange. He set it on the anvil, picked up his hammer. The first strike rang out clear, then another, and another. Steady rhythm, the sound of a man who'd done this 10,000 times. "Elizabeth Morrison married Randall Garrett 12 years ago," Mo said between strikes. "I was at the wedding. Her family didn't approve. Said he was ambitious, cold, but she loved him, or thought she did." Strike, strike, strike. 2 years later, she fell down the stairs. That's what the doctor's report said. Broke her neck. Died instant. Mo examined the horseshoe, set it back in the coals. "Thing is, I talked to Doc Harlan a few weeks after, when he'd had enough whiskey to loosen his tongue. He said the bruises on her arms didn't match a fall. Said they looked like someone grabbed her, hard." Danny made a small sound. Caleb put a hand on his shoulder. "Doc couldn't prove it," Mo continued. "Wouldn't have mattered if he could. Garrett had money, influence. He had the law in his pocket even then." Mo turned from the forge, looked directly at Danny. "Your mama was a good woman. She deserved better." "Why are you telling me this?" Caleb asked. "Because I made a promise." Mo pulled the horseshoe back out. The metal had lost its glow. He plunged it into the water barrel. Steam hissed up, sharp and bitter. "Elizabeth came to see me 2 months before she died, brought this box, asked me if there was any way to make a lock that would hold up through anything, water, fire, time. I told her the lock she had was already good, asked why she needed to know, and the steam cleared." Mo set the horseshoe aside. "She said she was putting papers inside, important papers. Insurance, she called it. In case something happened to her, she made me promise that if Randall ever came for the boy, I'd stand witness. I'd tell what I knew." Mo looked at both of them. "I mean to keep that promise." Silence filled the shop. Outside, voices passed. A wagon rattled by. Inside, just the sound of cooling metal and the forge's low rumble. "You stand with us," Caleb said slowly. "Garrett will destroy you." "Maybe, maybe not." Mo picked up the iron box again. "But here's what I learned working iron 40 years. Cold iron bends or breaks honest. You heat it, you can shape it. But if the metal's flawed, if there's corruption in it, it'll crack when you put pressure on it. No hiding that." He set the box down, met Caleb's eyes. "Randall Garrett's flawed iron, and I aim to put pressure on him till he cracks." Mo worked on the lock for an hour. Caleb and Danny watched. The old blacksmith used thin tools, picks made from wire, probes filed down to needle width. His hands moved with the same steady patience he'd shown at the anvil. No rushing, no force, just careful pressure in the right places. Outside, the afternoon light began to fade. The forge fire painted the shop walls orange. The smell of hot metal mixed with coal smoke. Danny sat on the bench, knees pulled up, watching Mo's every movement. "Your mama was smart," Mo said, not looking up from his work. "This lock's got 4 tumblers. Most have 2. She wanted whatever's inside to stay inside." "Will you break it?" Danny asked. "Not if I can help it." Mo adjusted his grip. Something inside the lock clicked. "There. One down." Caleb stood near the window, watching the street through the gap in the shutters. People passed. Normal day. But he felt eyes on the shop. Felt the weight of attention. Word would reach Randall by now that they were here, that Mo was helping. "How long before Garrett moves?" Caleb asked. "He already has." Mo didn't look up. Another click. Second tumbler. "That crowd earlier wasn't random. He wanted folks to see him, see you, wanted to plant the story before you could." "What story?" that you're the problem. Unstable widower, stolen child, him the victim. Mo tested the lock, adjusted his tool. By tonight, half the town will believe it. By tomorrow, 3/4. Danny's face had gone pale. They'll make me go back. Not yet, Mo said. Still got 90 days. That's time enough. Third click. But you need more than time. You need proof, you need allies, and you need to be ready when he changes tactics. Changes how? Caleb asked. He's tried force, tried legal pressure, tried public opinion. Mo looked up. Next, he'll try to buy you, offer you something you need, make it seem reasonable. Caleb thought about the flour, the credit denied, the winter stretching ahead. He had maybe 3 weeks of food left if he was careful, less if they had more snow. Randall knew that. Everyone knew that. I won't sell the boy. Didn't say you would, but he'll offer. And he won't ask for the boy directly. He'll ask for something else. Something that looks like a trade. Makes you seem like the one who agreed, the one who made the choice. Mo bent back to his work. That's how men like him work. They don't take. They make you give. The fourth tumbler clicked. Mo set down his tools, wiped his hands on his apron. The lock hung open, but he didn't lift the lid. This is yours to open, Mo said to Danny. Your mama left it for you, not for me, not for anyone else. Danny slid off the bench, approached the box like it might burn him. His hands shook when he reached for the lid. He stopped, looked at Caleb. What if it's nothing? What if she was wrong? Then we'll figure something else, Caleb said. But we need to know. Danny lifted the lid. Inside were papers, folded, old but preserved. Danny lifted them carefully, set them on the workbench. 3 documents. Mo moved the lantern closer so they could see. The first was a will. Elizabeth Morrison Garrett's last will and testament, dated 2 months before she died. Caleb scanned the words. Legal language, dense, but the meaning was clear. $8,000 held in trust for Daniel Garrett, to be released when he turned 18, managed by a third-party trustee, a bank in Cheyenne, not by Randall. He controls it now, Danny said quietly. The money. He told me when I was older I'd understand why he needed it, that it was for my education, my future. Caleb set down the will, picked up the second document, a letter, handwritten, Elizabeth's hand by the look of it. He read it slowly, his jaw tightened. What is it? Danny asked. Caleb didn't answer right away. The letter detailed abuse, dates, incidents, Randall's violence, his control, the cellar punishments, the threats, the isolation. At the bottom, a single line. If anything happens to me, it was not an accident. The third document was smaller, a marriage certificate, and beneath it a property deed, water rights to a stretch of creek land, 20 acres. The deed was in Elizabeth's family name, Morrison, transferred to Sarah Thornton 8 years ago. Caleb stared at the name. Sarah, his wife. What is it? Mo asked. My wife's name, Sarah Thornton. Caleb's voice came out rough. This deed, Elizabeth gave it to her. Why? Because they were cousins. The pieces fell into place. Sarah's mother was a Morrison. She told me once she had family in the territory, but they'd lost touch. She must have reconnected with Elizabeth before... He stopped. Before Sarah died. Danny looked at the deed. What's water rights? Means whoever owns this paper owns access to the creek that runs through my land, and through Randall's. Caleb set the deed down carefully. That creek's the only reliable water source for miles. The railroad's planning to run a spur through this valley. They need water, lots of it, for the steam engines, for the crews. Mo whistled low. And Garrett needs that spur. His contracts depend on it. He needs this deed. Caleb touched the paper. That's why he wants Danny back. Not for love. Not even for the 8,000. He needs control of this water access because if Danny inherits it at 18, he loses his railroad deal, Mo finished. Loses everything he's built. The shop went quiet. The forge crackled. Outside, full dark had fallen. Caleb could hear voices in the distance, a dog barking, the ordinary sounds of a town settling in for the night. We need to get this somewhere safe, Caleb said. Copies made, filed properly. I know someone, Mo said. Esther Malone, town clerk. She's honest, discreet, and she's got access to the registry office. Caleb nodded, gathered the papers, folded them carefully, and placed them back in the iron box. Closed the lid. The lock wouldn't latch anymore, but the box was solid. Good enough. We'll take it to her tonight, Caleb said. He looked at Mo. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You're about to make an enemy who won't stop until he's destroyed you. Mo walked to the door, opened it a crack, checked the street. Stay here till I say. I'll walk out first. Draw attention if there's any. You count 30, then go. Mo stepped into the cold night. His boot heels faded on the frozen ground. Caleb counted, reached 30, took Danny's hand. They slipped out into the darkness. Behind them, the forge fire burned low and red through the shutters. Esther Malone lived in a small house behind the town hall. One story, whitewashed, a garden plot marked by frozen furrows. Caleb and Danny approached from the back, staying off the main street. The moon was up, half full, enough light to see by, enough shadow to hide in. Caleb knocked, soft. 3 taps, silence. Then footsteps. The door opened a crack. Esther's face appeared. She looked at Caleb, then Danny, then behind them into the darkness. Get inside. Quick. The house was warm. A single room with a kitchen area, a bed in the corner, a desk covered in papers. A lamp burned on the desk. The smell of ink and old books hung in the air. Esther bolted the door behind them. Half the town's talking about what happened today, she said. Randall's telling everyone you're holding the boy against his will, turning him against his own father. We opened the box, Caleb said. Esther went still. And? Caleb set the iron box on her desk, opened it, laid out the 3 documents. Esther picked up the will first. Read it by lamplight. Her lips moved slightly as she processed the legal language. Then the letter. Her face hardened. Finally the deed. She looked up. Sarah Thornton was your wife? Yes. And Elizabeth Morrison was her cousin? Apparently. Esther set the deed down gently, like it might shatter. This is worth $50,000 to Randall Garrett. Maybe more. The railroad consortium won't build through this valley without guaranteed water access. They've already paid him $20,000 as advance against future contracts. She looked at Danny. If you inherit this at 18, Randall loses everything. He'll be bankrupt. Maybe worse. He's leveraged against future earnings he won't have. So he needs the boy and the deed both, Caleb said. He needs the boy dead. The words hung in the air. Danny made a small sound. Caleb's hand went to his shoulder. He won't, Danny started. He killed your mother, Esther said. Not cruel, just fact. When she wouldn't give him what he wanted. What makes you think he won't do the same to you? Danny's eyes filled. He didn't cry, just stood there trembling. That's why we need your help, Caleb said. We need these documents filed, properly, on record, so if anything happens, I can file them, Esther said. But filing won't protect you. Randall has judges, lawyers, money. She picked up the forged custody papers from her desk, set them next to Elizabeth's letter. See the signature? Judge Carver. But Carver was in Denver when this was supposedly signed. I checked on the railway logs. He took the train on January 9th, didn't return until January 21st. So the papers are false, Caleb said. The papers are fraudulent, but proving it? That's harder. Carver could say he pre-signed them, or that the date's wrong, or a dozen other explanations. Esther sat down. I've been town clerk 23 years. I know how this works. Evidence isn't enough. You need witnesses, people willing to stand up publicly and say what they saw, what they know. Who'd do that? Caleb asked. Against Randall Garrett? Not many. Most people here owe him something. Money, jobs, future favors. Esther folded her hands. But not everyone. Doc Harlan's got his conscience bothering him about Elizabeth's death. May Chen at the saloon, she's got no debts and no patience for bullies. And Mo, you've got him already. 3 people, Caleb said. 3's a start, but you need more than witnesses. You need Randall to make a mistake, to show his hand. Esther stood, moved to the window, looked out at the dark street. He's going to come to you, soon. Within the next few days, he'll make an offer. What kind of offer? The kind that sounds reasonable. That makes you look like the villain if you refuse. She turned back. He'll offer to let you keep the boy, in exchange for the deed. Caleb thought about it. That's not the worst. It's a trap, Esther interrupted. The moment you hand over that deed, you've admitted you had it, that you knew its value, that you were using Danny to control it. He'll use that admission to paint you as the greedy one, the one trying to profit off a child, and once you've given up your only leverage, he'll file new papers, different judge, different claim, and he'll take Danny anyway. So what do we do? You refuse, publicly, make him the one who looks desperate? Esther moved back to her desk, started writing. I'm going to make 3 copies of each document, one for the registry office, one for the bank in Cheyenne that manages Danny's trust, one I'll hide somewhere even I won't remember for a few days. That way, if anything happens to the official copies, fire, theft, convenient loss, we still have proof. Her pen scratched across the paper. Fast, precise. 23 years of clerk work made her efficient. The sound filled the room. Danny sat on a chair in the corner watching. His face was pale, exhausted. You should know something else, Esther said without looking up. Vernon Price came to see me this afternoon, said the town council's been talking. They're worried about your influence on community stability. They're considering a resolution. What kind of resolution? The kind that declares you an unfit landowner, gives them authority to seize your property for unpaid debts and public welfare concerns. She looked up. You owe money to the trading post? $140 from last year's drought. Vernon said I could pay it off over time. He's calling it in, due immediately. If you can't pay, and he knows you can't, the council can take your land. And if you have no land, you have no legal standing to house a child. Esther's pen kept moving. It's a squeeze play, pressure from all sides until you break. Caleb felt the walls closing in. Legal, social, economic. Randall was thorough. There's one more thing, Esther said quietly. She finished a page, set it aside to dry. Luther Vance came to see me yesterday, late, after dark. Garrett's foreman? Yes, he asked me questions about the custody papers, about whether I thought they were legitimate. She started on the next page. I told him what I tell everyone, that I file what I'm given, that I don't make judgments. Why'd he ask? Because he's got doubts. I saw it in his face. He's worked for Randall 10 years, done things he's not proud of, but there's still something in him that knows right from wrong. She looked up. He's got an 11-year-old son, Luther does, lives with his ex-wife in Laramie. He sees that boy twice a month if he's lucky. You think he'd testify? I think he's looking for a reason to. Esther went back to her copying. But he won't do it alone. He needs to see other people step up first, needs to know he won't be the only one. Caleb moved to the window, looked out at the dark town. Somewhere out there, Randall Garrett was planning his next move. Somewhere, men loyal to his money were watching, waiting. The night felt heavy with it. How much time do we have? He asked. Until May 1st, the hearing. Esther finished the second set of copies. But realistically, until Randall runs out of patience. Could be a week, could be tomorrow. Behind them, Danny had fallen asleep in the chair, his head tilted against the wall. His hands still clutched his coat where the iron box had been. Caleb looked at him, 9 years old, already orphaned, already hunted. I won't let him go back, Caleb said. Then you better be ready for what's coming. Esther folded the copies, put one set in an envelope. Because Randall Garrett doesn't lose. Not in this territory, not in his lifetime. And you're about to try to be the first person who beats him. She handed Caleb the envelope. Take this to the bank in Cheyenne, first thing tomorrow. Don't wait, don't hesitate. Get it filed before he knows you have copies. That's a 2-day ride. I know, but it's necessary. She moved to Danny, draped a blanket over him gently. You can stay here tonight. Back room's got a cot. Leave before dawn, before people see. Caleb nodded. Esther walked him to the back room. Small, clean, a single bed, a wash basin. Through the wall, he could hear Danny's soft breathing. Thank you, Caleb said. Don't thank me yet. This is just the beginning. Esther paused at the door. And Mr. Thornton, when Randall comes with his offer, and he will, remember this. A man who'd kill his wife won't hesitate to kill you. She closed the door, left him in darkness. Outside, the wind picked up. A shutter banged somewhere. The town settled into sleep. But Caleb lay awake, watching the ceiling, listening for the sound of horses that might come before morning. They left before dawn. The streets were empty. Frost covered everything, roofs, fences, the water troughs. Their breath made clouds. Danny walked close to Caleb, silent. They reached the edge of town and stopped. I need you to stay with Esther, Caleb said. 2, maybe 3 days, until I get back from Cheyenne. Danny's face went white. You're leaving? Just to file the papers. Make sure they're registered properly. Then I'll come back. What if he comes while you're gone? Esther won't let him take you. Neither will Mo. Caleb knelt down, put his hands on Danny's shoulders. I need you to be brave. Can you do that? Danny nodded, but his eyes said different. They walked back to Esther's house. She was awake. Coffee on the stove. The smell filled the small kitchen. She looked at Caleb and understood. I'll watch him, she said. Go. Caleb mounted his horse, looked back once. Danny stood in the doorway, small and pale in the lamplight. Then Caleb turned and rode. The trip to Cheyenne took a day and a half. Hard riding, cold that burned. He filed the documents at the bank, got receipts, official stamps. The bank manager looked at the water rights deed and whistled low. This is worth considerable money, the man said. I know. Mr. Garrett's been inquiring about purchasing these rights, offering quite a sum. They're not for sale. The manager had nodded, filed the papers, given Caleb the receipts. These are now on official record. Nothing can change that, not without a judge's order. Caleb had ridden back faster than he came, pushed his horse hard, reached Red Creek Valley late on the third day. The sun was setting, orange light painted the buildings. He went straight to Esther's house. The door was locked, no light inside. He knocked, no answer. His gut twisted. He tried the door, locked solid, went around back. The kitchen window was dark. He peered inside, empty, no sign of struggle, but no sign of life either. He mounted and rode to Mo's shop. The forge was cold, door closed. He knocked. Mo opened it immediately. Where's Danny? Caleb asked. At my place, upstairs. He's safe. Mo stepped back to let him in. But we've got problems. Caleb's jaw tightened. What happened? Town council met yesterday. Voted 4-1 to revoke your land rights. Vernon Price's debt collection. $140 due immediately, or they seize your property. Mo moved to the cold forge, started building a fire. Meeting was public. A lot of folks there. Randall spoke, made a case that you're unstable. Using the boy to hold on to land you can't maintain. Said he'd be willing to take on your debt out of Christian charity if you'd just let his son come home. And folks listened. Some agreed, some stayed quiet. Mo struck flint. The tinder caught. Doc Harlan spoke up, said he'd examined the boy, found evidence of old injuries consistent with abuse. That got people thinking. Machin stood up too, said she'd served Randall plenty of times, seen him drunk, heard him talk about controlling Daniel's inheritance. Caleb felt a spark of hope. They testified? In a town meeting, not a court, but yes, they put their names on it. Mo fed the fire carefully, small sticks, then larger. After that, Preacher Abernathy stood, said maybe we ought to slow down, let the law work proper, give you until the hearing in May. He defended me? Not exactly. More like he defended the process, but it was enough to split the vote. Council tabled the land seizure. For now. Caleb exhaled. Where's Esther? Town hall. She's been there since yesterday morning, making sure the registry office stays locked. She's worried Randall will try to steal the original documents. Mo looked up from the fire. She sent me a note. Said you should go to your ranch, tonight. That Randall's coming. How does she know? Because he filed a notice, official, requesting a private meeting with you to discuss settlement terms, tonight, at your property. Mo's face was grim. He's making it look legitimate, like he's trying to resolve this peacefully. But Caleb, men don't ride out after dark for peaceful conversations. Caleb's hand moved to his gun, checked it, checked his rifle. I need to take Danny. No, you leave him here. Safest place in town. My shop's built from stone, one door, one window. I've got a shotgun, and I know how to use it. Mo stood. You go to your ranch, face whatever's coming, but you go alone. Don't give Randall any excuse to say you're using the boy as a shield. Caleb wanted to argue, wanted to see Danny, hold him, promise him everything would be fine. But Mo was right. Tell him I'll be back, Caleb said. I will. Caleb rode out of town. The moon was rising, 3/4 full, bright enough to see the road, cold enough that the mud had frozen solid. His horse's hooves rang on the hard ground. He thought about Sarah, about the night she died. The midwife had come too late. The baby had been breech. Sarah had labored for 36 hours. Toward the end, she'd looked at him, gripped his hand. Don't blame yourself, she'd whispered. Promise me. And he'd promised. But he'd broken that promise every day since. Now another child needed him. Not his blood, not his burden, but his all the same. Because he'd chosen it. Because Danny had stumbled to his door and whispered 6 words. Don't let him take the box. The ranch appeared ahead, dark, quiet. Caleb approached slow, eyes scanning, looking for horses, for men, For anything out of place, nothing. Just his cabin, his fence, his land. He dismounted, tied his horse, walked to the porch. The door was still locked. He opened it, went inside, lit the lamp. The cabin looked exactly as he'd left it. Coffee pot on the stove, Sarah's quilt folded on the bed, the table where Danny had sat, hands wrapped around the iron box. Caleb set the lamp on the table, loaded his rifle, checked the window, sat down in the chair facing the door, and waited. An hour passed, then another. The lamp burned steady. Outside, the wind picked up. Caleb heard it coming from a long way off. A low moan through the trees, then closer, then right against the cabin walls. Hoofbeats, multiple horses, coming fast. Caleb stood, moved away from the lamp, put his back to the wall beside the window, rifle ready. The horses stopped outside. Caleb counted shadows. 6 men, maybe 7. They dismounted, boots on frozen ground, low voices, then a knock. 3 sharp raps. "Mr. Thornton, it's Randall Garrett. I'd like to talk." Caleb didn't answer. "I'm alone. Well, accompanied by my men for safety, but I'm here peacefully. I have a proposal, one I think you'll find very reasonable." Silence. "I'm going to step onto your porch now. I'm unarmed. My men will stay back. I just want to talk, man to man, about what's best for my son." Footsteps on the porch, slow, deliberate. A shadow crossed the window. Randall Garrett's face appeared in the lamplight. He saw Caleb, saw the rifle, raised his hands. "Easy. I'm here to make peace, not war." Caleb opened the door, stood in the frame. Rifle pointed down but ready. Randall was dressed fine, clean coat, polished boots, hat in his hands. Behind him, 6 riders sat their horses. Luther Vance was one. The others were strangers, hired guns by the look of them. "Say what you came to say," Caleb said. Randall smiled, reasonable, patient. "Can I come in? It's cold." "No." "All right, then I'll be brief." Randall took a breath. "I'll drop the custody challenge. You can keep Daniel, raise him, be the father he needs. I won't contest it. Won't file any more papers. You'll have full legal guardianship." Caleb waited. "In exchange," Randall continued, "you give me the water rights deed, the Morrison property. That's all I want. The land. You keep the boy, I keep my business. Everyone wins." "No." Randall's smile faltered. "You didn't even think about it." "Don't need to. That deed belongs to Danny. It's his inheritance, his mother's protection for him. I won't trade it." "Mr. Thornton, be reasonable. That deed is just paper. It has no value to you. But to me, to my business, it's everything. I'm offering you a child's life, his future, his freedom, all for a piece of paper you'll never use." "The answer's no." Randall's face hardened. The reasonable mask slipped. "You're making a mistake. Maybe. I'll ruin you. I'll take your land, your livelihood. I'll make sure no one in this territory sells you so much as a sack of flour. You'll starve out here. Then I'll starve." Randall stared at him, long and hard. Then he put his hat back on, turned, walked to his horse, mounted, looked back. "You think you're protecting him, but you're signing his death warrant, and yours." He gathered his reins. "Last chance, Mr. Thornton." Caleb raised the rifle, not aiming, just lifting, the message clear. Randall rode off. His men followed. The sound faded into darkness. Caleb stood on the porch, alone. The wind cut through his coat. His hands were shaking, not from cold, from the weight of what he'd just done. He'd refused, made Randall the desperate one, just like Esther said. Now they'd see if he survived it. The summons came 3 weeks later, official. Hand-delivered by Sheriff Hayes, May 1st, 10 o'clock, Town Hall, final custody hearing. Spring had started to break through. The snow was mostly gone. Mud season. The roads were thick with it. Water dripped from eaves. The river ice had cracked and moved downstream in chunks. You could hear it at night, the sound of winter letting go. Caleb rode into town with Danny behind him. They'd stayed at the ranch those 3 weeks, quiet, watchful. No more visits from Randall's men, but the pressure had increased in other ways. Vernon Price had posted a notice on the trading post door. Caleb Thornton, credit denied. Property seizure pending. Doc Harlan had ridden out twice, checked on Danny, made notes, said nothing about whose side he was on. The town hall was full when they arrived. Every bench packed, people standing along the walls. Caleb felt their eyes, some sympathetic, most just curious, hungry for spectacle. Judge Morrison sat at the head table. He'd come from Denver, an honest man, Esther had said, not in Randall's pocket. That was something. Randall sat on the left side, 3 lawyers with him, papers stacked neat. Luther Vance stood behind him. The foreman's face was unreadable. Caleb and Danny took the right side. Esther sat with them. Mo stood near the back wall, arms crossed. Judge Morrison called the room to order. The gavel struck. Silence fell. This hearing will determine permanent custody of Daniel Garrett, age 9. Petitioner Randall Garrett claims legal right as biological father. Respondent Caleb Thornton claims protective custody based on evidence of abuse and abandonment. The judge looked at both sides. We'll hear testimony. Then I'll make my ruling. Mr. Garrett, you may begin. Randall stood. He spoke for 10 minutes. Calm. Reasonable. His son had run away during a storm. A childish impulse. He'd been frantic with worry. Mr. Thornton had kept Daniel from him, refused to return him, filed false claims of abuse to justify the kidnapping. He had witnesses, character references, medical reports showing Daniel had never been harmed. The judge listened, made notes. Mr. Thornton, your response. Caleb stood. His throat was dry. He wasn't a speaking man, never had been. I found Danny in a blizzard, carried him to my cabin. He told me he was running from his father, that his father locked him in a cellar for 2 days. I believed him. Still do. Do you have proof of this abuse? His word, and his mother's letter. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Randall's lawyer stood. Objection. What letter? This is the first we're hearing of any letter. Esther stood. The letter is part of Elizabeth Garrett's last testament, filed with the Territorial Registry, along with her will and property deed. And she produced documents, walked them to the judge. These are certified copies. The originals are in the registry vault. The judge examined them. His eyebrows rose. He read Elizabeth's letter slowly. The room waited, silent except for the sound of paper and breathing. This letter, Judge Morrison said carefully, makes serious accusations. Mrs. Garrett claims her husband was violent, controlling, that she feared for her life and her son's. He looked at Randall. You want to respond to this? Randall's face had gone pale. My wife, God rest her, was unwell, prone to melancholy. She wrote that letter during one of her episodes. It's not evidence. It's the product of a disturbed mind. Doc Harlan examined her body after she died. Moe's voice came from the back, loud, clear. He told me the bruises didn't match a fall. Randall spun. That's hearsay, third-hand gossip. Then let's ask Doc Harlan directly. Judge Morrison looked at the crowd. Is Doc Harlan present? An old man stood, white beard, weathered face. He moved to the front. The judge gestured to the witness chair. Doc Harlan sat. Did you examine Elizabeth Garrett after her death? I did. What did you find? Doc Harlan's hands twisted in his lap. Broken neck, consistent with a fall downstairs. That's what I wrote in my report. But, the judge prompted. But there were bruises on her upper arms, both sides, like someone had grabbed her, hard. And there were older injuries, healed fractures, ribs, wrist. His voice dropped. I should have said something then. I didn't. I'm saying it now. The room erupted, voices overlapping. The judge's gavel struck 3 times. Order! Order! Randall stood. This is character assassination. My wife fell. It was an accident. This man, he pointed at Doc Harlan, is lying to protect Thornton. I'm lying? Doc Harlan's voice shook with anger. I've been carrying that guilt 9 years, watching you walk free, watching you control that boy the same way you controlled his mother. I'm done being silent. Mei Chen stood from the crowd. I'll testify too. I've served Randall Garrett in my saloon for years. Heard him drunk, heard him say the boy was worth $8,000 once he turned 18, that he needed to keep control until then. Another voice. Preacher Abernathy. I visited the Garrett home twice after Elizabeth died. The boy was thin, scared, wouldn't speak unless his father gave permission. I thought it was grief. Now I wonder. One by one, people stood. Not many, but enough. Testimony built like stones in a wall, each one small, together, solid. Judge Morrison raised his hand. Silence fell again. He looked at Randall. Mr. Garrett, I'm going to ask you a direct question. Did you forge Judge Carver's signature on the initial custody papers filed in January? Randall's lawyer stood. My client doesn't have to answer. Yes or no, Mr. Garrett? Randall's jaw worked. His eyes swept the room, found no allies, only witnesses. The papers were filed in good faith. If there was an error, say, that's not what I asked. Silence stretched, long, painful. Then Luther Vance moved. He walked from behind Randall to the center of the room, pulled a folded paper from his coat, handed it to the judge. That's Judge Carver's real schedule, Luther said. Copied from Mr. Garrett's desk. Shows Carver was in Denver when those papers were supposedly signed. Mr. Garrett knew it. Had them forged anyway. Randall lunged. Luther stepped back. Sheriff Hayes moved between them. Randall's face was twisted. All pretense gone. You're finished, Luther. You hear me. Finished. I know. Luther's voice was quiet. But I got a son too. And I want him to grow up knowing his father did the right thing. At least once. Judge Morrison set down the paper, looked at Randall, at Caleb, at Danny sitting small and pale in his chair. I've heard enough. My ruling is as follows. The room held its breath. Permanent custody of Daniel Garrett is hereby granted to Caleb Thornton. Judge Morrison's voice carried through the silent room. The evidence of abuse, fraud, and endangerment is sufficient. Mr. Garrett's petition is denied. Furthermore, I'm ordering a full audit of Daniel's trust fund and an investigation into Elizabeth Garrett's death. The gavel struck. Final. Randall stood. His chair scraped back. You can't. I can, and I have. Sheriff Hayes, please escort Mr. Garrett out. Judge Morrison looked at Caleb. Mr. Thornton, the boy is yours, legally, permanently. See that you care for him well. I will, Your Honor. Sheriff Hayes took Randall's arm, firm but not rough. Randall shook him off, walked toward the door. His lawyer scrambled to follow. At the threshold he stopped, turned, looked at Caleb. This isn't over. Yes, Caleb said quietly. It is. Randall left. The door closed behind him. For a moment, no one moved. Then Doc Harlan stood, walked over, extended his hand to Caleb. I'm sorry I didn't speak sooner. Caleb shook it. You spoke when it mattered. Mei Chin came next. Then others, one by one, not everyone. Some slipped out the back, but enough to matter. Luther Vance stood apart, waiting. When the others had gone, he approached. Danny tensed. Caleb put a hand on the boy's shoulder. I know what you think of me, Luther said. I earned it. Did things I ain't proud of, but for what it's worth. He looked at Danny. I'm glad you're safe, son. Danny didn't answer, but he nodded, small, careful. Luther turned to go. Caleb spoke. You need work. My fence line needs mending. Pays not much, but it's honest. Luther stopped, turned back. You offering me a job, after everything. Offering a man who did the right thing a chance to keep doing it. Luther's throat worked. I'll think on it. He left. Mo came over, clapped Caleb on the shoulder. You did good. We did good. Caleb looked around. All of us. Esther approached last. She held a folder. These are the certified copies. Custody order, property deed, trust fund documentation. Keep them safe. I will. And Mr. Thornton, the water rights deed. You should know, the Railroad Consortium sent word. They're withdrawing their contract with Randall Garrett. Without the water access, the spur line is dead. He's ruined. Caleb felt no satisfaction in it, just tired relief. What'll happen to him? Bankruptcy. Maybe criminal charges if the investigation into Elizabeth's death finds anything. He'll leave the territory. Men like him always do when their power's gone. Danny tugged Caleb's sleeve. Can we go home? Yeah, we can go home. They walked out into the spring afternoon. The mud was thick, but the sun was warm, real warmth, not winter's pale imitation. Birds called from the trees, not many yet, but enough, a promise of more to come. They rode back to the ranch in silence. Danny held on tight. When they arrived, the cabin looked different somehow. Or maybe Caleb just saw it different, not a place to survive, a place to live. That night, Caleb made supper, salt pork and beans, bread from the last of his flour. They ate at the table. Danny asked questions, small ones, about the ranch, about what work needed doing, about whether they'd plant a garden this year. We will, Caleb said. Need to fix the fence first, then till the plot. You know how to plant? No, sir. I'll teach you. After supper, Danny climbed to the loft. Caleb heard him settling in, the creak of the old bed frame, the rustle of Sarah's quilt. A few minutes later, a small voice. Mr. Thornton? Yeah? Thank you for not giving up on me. Caleb's throat tightened. You don't need to thank me. I know, but I wanted to. Silence. Then the sound of steady breathing. Sleep. Caleb sat by the fire, watched the flames, thought about Sarah, about the child they'd lost, about how grief had been a stone in his chest for 9 years. He felt it still, would always feel it, but something had shifted, The weight hadn't lessened, but he'd found room alongside it, room for something new. 6 weeks later, the valley had turned green, wildflowers dotted the meadows. The fence line was repaired. Luther Vance had taken Caleb up on his offer, came 3 days a week, worked hard, spoke little. That suited both of them fine. The garden was planted. Caleb had shown Danny how to set seeds, how deep, how far apart. The boy had taken to it, patient, careful, good hands for growing things. One evening they were mending fence together, the last section. Danny worked the wire, while Caleb held the post steady. The river ran full behind them, ice long gone, just clean water moving downstream. Danny hammered the final staple, tested the wire. It held firm. He looked at Caleb. That do it? That does it. They stood back, looked at their work. The fence ran straight and true, not perfect, but solid. It would hold. What happens if it breaks? Danny asked. We fix it. Caleb put a hand on the boy's shoulder. That's what family does. We tend what matters. Danny looked up at him. Are we family now? For real? Caleb thought about the legal papers, about blood and names and all the ways people defined what made someone kin. Then he thought about a boy stumbling through a blizzard, about choosing to open the door, about all the small decisions that had led them here. Yeah, he said, we're family, for real. They walked back to the cabin together. The sun was setting. Orange light painted the mountains. The air smelled like warm earth and new grass. Smoke rose from the chimney. Supper would be ready soon. Behind them, the fence stood strong. The river flowed free. And spring finally had come to stay. Out here, a man learns that some things can't be rushed. Not healing, not justice, not spring. The land teaches you patience if you're willing to listen. Teaches you that winter's always longest right before it breaks, that the coldest nights come just before dawn. Caleb stood on the porch that evening, coffee cup warming his hands, the same ritual he'd kept for 9 years. But now, Danny sat beside him. The boy had his own cup, half coffee, half milk, more sugar than Caleb could afford, but he added it anyway. They watched the sun drop behind the mountains, watched the stars come out one by one. You think Mama would have liked you? Danny asked quietly. Caleb thought about Elizabeth, about Sarah, about women who'd protected children across time and distance, who'd hidden deeds and written letters and made promises to cousins they barely knew. Building walls of paper against men who dealt in force. I think she'd be glad you're safe, he said. I think so too. A coyote called from somewhere up the ridge. Another answered. The night settling in. Caleb remembered the first time Danny had asked if he'd still be here when the wildflowers came. Now they were blooming. Yellow and purple across the meadow. The boy had seen them, would see them again next year, and the year after that. Wasn't the law that saved him. Law's just paper and ink. What saved him was folks deciding that truth mattered more than comfort, that a child's life was worth the risk of standing up. Mo and Esther and Doc Harlan and Luther Vance. Even May Chen, even Preacher Abernathy, in his own way. One by one, they'd stepped forward, made it possible. That's how it works out here. One person finds the courage, then another, then enough that it matters. Danny finished his coffee, set down the cup, leaned against Caleb's shoulder, the weight of him warm and solid and real. We should head in, Caleb said. Early start tomorrow. Yeah. But neither of them moved. Not yet. Above them the stars turned, the river rode. The fence they'd mended stood quiet in the darkness, and inside the cabin, the fire burned low and red, waiting for them to come home.